You're a TV producer, Jamie. Could you have scripted this any better?
No, it was amazing.
$12 million, one bracelet, and a poker career that crashed harder than any champion before him. Jamie Gold became the most satisfying downfall the game has ever seen, because while other winners built legacies, Jamie built a lie. How did someone go from the top of the poker world to being quietly erased by the very game that made him rich? Well, let's talk about what really happened. Jamie Gold wasn't part of the poker world, not really. He didn't pay his dues grinding underground cash games or flying under the radar in side events. He didn't study charts, didn't battle heads-up legends, didn't build a reputation on the felt. He was a Hollywood guy, a talent agent, someone who made his money by talking, not playing. And that's exactly what made him so dangerous in 2006. The World Series of Poker was at its peak. Poker was everywhere. On TV, on laptops, in bars, in basements. The moneymaker boom had opened the floodgates, and by the time Gold walked into the Rio that summer, the main event had ballooned into the largest live poker tournament ever held. Over 8,000 entrants, many of them amateurs who had satellited in online or bought in chasing a dream. Most had no idea what they were doing. Jamie Gold thrived in that chaos. He didn't just play hands, he performed them. From the first level, he started talking, and he didn't stop. Gold turned every hand into a psychological battle. He'd tell players what he had, what they had, why they should fold, why they should call, and half the time, he was right. He wasn't building a table image, he was the table image, loud, confident, unafraid, and while most players relied on tight aggressive fundamentals, Gold played with zero fear. He raised with garbage, he called light, he ran wild bluffs and made them look like value bets, and somehow, it kept working. To outsiders, it looked like genius, a new kind of poker wizard, but to professionals, it was something else entirely. It was manipulation, pure and simple. He wasn't outplaying people, he was overwhelming them, and it only worked because no one at the table knew how to push back.
After starting the day with just about 500,000 chips, Jamie Gold has been on the run of a lifetime and now has almost 3 million chips.
But there was something else, something no amount of psychology could explain. Jamie Gold wasn't just lucky with his opponents, he was lucky with the deck. In a game built on percentages, Jamie Gold kept defying them. Poker players are used to swings. You can make all the right decisions and still lose. You can dominate a hand and get crushed on the river. It's part of the game, everyone knows that. But with Jamie Gold, it was like the laws of variance had stopped applying. Hand after hand, he got there. Top pair held, gut shots landed, two outers showed up like clockwork. When he shoved light, the flop bailed him out. When he bluffed into strength, his opponents folded the best hand. It wasn't just one or two fortunate breaks, it was a sustained, mathematically outrageous run of good fortune, and he capitalized on every bit of it. Gold played more hands than almost anyone else in the field. He opened wide, he defended recklessly, he chased, and where most players would have crashed out, he surged. At one point, it felt like he couldn't miss. Whether he had ace-queen or 7-3 offsuit, he played it like it was aces, and somehow, the board kept agreeing. By day 5, players weren't just frustrated, they were confused. Every time someone tried to trap him, the trap backfired. Every time someone called him down, he had it. Or if he didn't, he hit it. He wasn't grinding out edges, he was bulldozing the field. When he reached the final table, it was no longer a tournament, it was a coronation. Gold entered with over twice as many chips as the next biggest stack. It was the largest chip lead in World Series of Poker Main Event history. And with that kind of arsenal, he didn't need to play smart anymore. He just needed to keep applying pressure and let the money jumps do the rest. He did exactly that. He talked, he shoved, he floated flops with nothing and turned it into something. Opponents played scared, hoping to ladder up. Gold didn't need to adjust, he just needed to keep being himself. And that's what made the pros watching at home so uncomfortable. They weren't seeing brilliance, they were seeing someone get away with everything. The kind of run that only happens once, if ever. Jamie Gold had just won $12 million, the largest first place prize in poker history. The cameras were off, the confetti had settled, and before the champagne had even gone flat, the lawsuits had begun. The man leading the charge? Bruce Crispin Laser. Liza wasn't a poker player, he was a British television producer and a fellow Hollywood connector, just like Gold. But according to him, they had a clear agreement. Liza would help secure celebrities to wear the Bulldog brand during the main event. In return, Gold would register under Bulldog's name and, if he cashed, they'd split the winnings 50-50. And that's where things got messy. Gold played the entire tournament with Bulldog patches and branding. His backers were watching, so was Liza. But when Gold won, the money didn't move. Liza went public. He didn't just make vague accusations, he brought evidence, voicemails, emails, and even witnesses confirming the deal. One voicemail had Gold's voice explicitly promising to split the prize money if he won. And Gold's response? A wall of deflection. He called it a misunderstanding, claimed the agreement wasn't legally binding, that things weren't as clear as Liza suggested, but the poker world wasn't convinced. Because the truth is, no one was shocked. Gold had already built a reputation during the main event for bending the rules, talking during hands, giving away information, skirting the edges of ethical play. To many, this wasn't some bizarre twist. It was the next logical step. A Hollywood hustler who talked his way into a fortune, now trying to talk his way out of splitting it. The timing couldn't have been worse. Gold's win was meant to be a high point for poker, a new era of record-breaking fields and global attention. But the reigning champion was suddenly at the center of a bitter legal battle that dragged on for months. Eventually, the case was settled out of court. The exact terms were never disclosed, but the damage was already done. In the eyes of many, Jamie Gold didn't just lose credibility, he confirmed every suspicion about who he really was. Not a world champion, just a man who caught lightning in a bottle and tried to keep all of it for himself. Jamie Gold was still the reigning world champion, but the poker world had already started turning the page. He returned to the spotlight with cameras still rolling and sponsors still circling, hoping to ride the momentum of his historic win. But poker isn't a movie set, and no amount of charisma can hide a busted strategy once the cards stop falling your way. His first big televised cash game was a disaster. The same speech play, bravado, and manipulative charm he used in the main event. It fell flat. He talked too much, overbet weak hands, misread situations. He wasn't facing amateurs anymore. He was sitting across from killers. These players weren't intimidated. They weren't confused. They were calculating. And Gold? He was getting carved up. Time and time again, his antics backfired. He tried bluffing into strength and got called. He tried controlling the table dynamic, only to be ignored. His reads, so confidently proclaimed, were now consistently wrong. And unlike in 2006, the deck wasn't there to save him. Off the felt, it was just as ugly. Analysts began publicly picking apart his main event run, breaking down hands that once looked brilliant and revealing them as deeply flawed. He wasn't making genius plays, he was making bad ones that happened to work out. Fold equity bailed him out, poor opponents bailed him out, the river bailed him out. But variance doesn't last forever. Gold, to his credit, didn't disappear immediately. He kept showing up. But instead of rising to the challenge, he doubled down on denial. In interviews, he claimed he wasn't taking these games seriously, that he was experimenting, that he was just having fun. But no one was buying it, because in poker, there's nowhere to hide. Once the cards stop falling your way, the game exposes you. Skill, patience, discipline, those are the tools that keep legends relevant, and Gold didn't have any of them. His name was still known, his face still recognizable, but his reputation, that was gone. The game had turned on him, the audience had moved on, and Jamie Gold was stuck trying to bluff a table that had finally called his hand. Jamie Gold should have been a poker legend. He had the title, he had the trophy, he had the biggest main event win in history. But when it came time to build a legacy, he folded. Other champions before him used their spotlight to prove they belonged. Greg Raymer embraced the role of ambassador. Joe Hackham brought professionalism and class to the table. Even Chris Moneymaker, who also came out of nowhere, spent the next decade grinding, learning, evolving. Gold took a different path. He didn't return to the grind or chase another bracelet. He didn't study, adapt, or try to compete with the new era of players who were rapidly mastering the game. He chased celebrity. He became a poker personality, not a professional, not an ambassador, just a name. He popped up at corporate events, he posed for photos, he gave speeches. He coached high net worth amateurs who didn't care about strategy, just the story. And when real poker players talked about him, it wasn't with admiration, it was with eye rolls. He was the guy who got lucky, the guy who talked his way into a title, the guy who sued and got sued, and then rode that one win until the tires came off. By the early 2010s, Gold wasn't even part of the conversation anymore. He wasn't showing up in big buy-in events. He wasn't on leaderboards. He wasn't a threat. The industry had passed him by. The irony? He never even tried to stop it. He had a once-in-a-generation opportunity, a win so big that it could have secured him sponsorships, content deals, even a permanent seat in poker history. But poker isn't about what you could have done. It's about what you do when the cards turn cold. Gold didn't step up. He vanished. and slowly, the poker world stopped talking about him like a champion and started using his name as a warning. Because if poker gives you the spotlight and you do nothing with it, the game doesn't wait, it forgets. Poker moves fast, and if you're not building something, you're fading. And Jamie Gold? He faded. But if you thought Jamie Gold's story was disappointing, wait until you hear about Annie Duke, a woman once hailed as the Duchess of Poker, who fooled fans, dodged scandal after scandal, and walked away from the game just before everything unraveled. Click now to watch why this poker villainess was erased from the game.